So I, over the years, I got to run some different programs and be involved in some different things. One of the things that I did was dignitary protection.
Okay.
So what that means is whenever somebody like the president, vice president, heads of state would come to our region, I would run the motorcades.
Okay.
And I started as an officer working on the motorcades, and then when I became a sergeant, I started putting the motorcades, and then when I promoted to lieutenant, I ran the motorcades. But as a sergeant, one of the things I got to do is Gerald Ford, President of the United States,
Really?
was he lived in the Palm Springs area,
Oh.
and when he passed away, I had written the operations plan for the motorcade for his funeral.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, in fact, I have some really nice memorabilia. If we ever have another podcast, maybe we'll do it in my home office. And I have some really nice memorabilia from the United States Secret Service,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
where I've done some work and a thing from Gerald Ford's estate for the motorcade that we ran while his funeral services were here in Southern California. So I did that. I met every president since Ronald Reagan.
Really?
So,
Oh, wow.
so working the motorcades, they always say thank you and that kind of stuff. But probably the most down to earth person that I actually got to shake hands with and was George Bush. And
Really?
yeah, he and Barbara Bush came to the Annenberg estate in the Palm Springs area, and it was a motorcade that I ran for them, and met him at the airport. And he actually took the time to walk away from everybody and walked over and shook my hand and said, "Hey, Sarge, appreciate you being here."
Oh, wow.
And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for the Bushes. They're very, very nice people.
That's awesome.
So,
Did you ever get a chance to meet Bush Sr. at all?
that was Bush Senior.
Oh, Bush Sr. Okay.
Yeah, that was Bush Senior. Him and Barbara, but I also Bush was 42. I always get their numbers mixed up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the son as well. Got to meet him as well. And,
That's really cool.
Oh yeah, all of them. So I was actually with the Secret Service when they found out that President Obama was going to be the Democratic nomination or nominee
really?
that year, and that starting that day that he was going to start getting full protection. Because they don't get full protection unless they are a candidate for the presidency, and they have to get that nomination. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to do a lot of stuff there. The Highway Patrol sent me away for 3 years to the Drug Enforcement Administration, and
Okay.
I worked with the DEA for 3 years working narcotics cases. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Seeing
yeah.
all the different things that go on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, believe it or not, I had long hair and a ponytail, and I was real thin. I looked like I was a meth user. But then, let's see, I ran our background unit, doing background investigations for hiring new officers.
Oh, okay.
I was a sergeant in Central LA during 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And we thought we were going to get hit next. So I actually went home, got my fifth wheel RV, took it to the Central Los Angeles office, and I did not leave that office for a couple months.
Oh, just in case if an attack was to happen?
I ended up, because I ended up working 16-hour shifts and sleeping in the parking lot for a couple months. Just because we were that concerned that Los Angeles was going to be a target and not knowing exactly what was happening. So, yeah, I got through that. I was, when we had the riots in 92 in Los Angeles, I was working in Riverside at the time, and I was out there for the riots. And,
wow.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was 5 days. And it was one of those things that we got packaged up when the riot first started and put in squads and sent out to Los Angeles with the clothes on our back. And I didn't come home for 5 days. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was, our families were able to package up some clothes for us, but by the time they got to us, it was we got our new clothes, you could say, from our families that sent us our dry cleaning and clean socks and skivvies and all that. And
wow.
on day 4.
Oh, wow.
I was washing my socks and everything in the shower. And then, but so that was interesting. Yeah, I had a very interesting career. Got to do a lot of things. As an officer, sergeant, and a lieutenant, I ran what at that time was called the Officer Involved Shooting Team. Now it's called Critical Incident. But anytime there was a use of force that resulted in serious bodily injury or death, or an officer killed in the line of duty, I did the investigation on those.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So, yeah, a very, very varied career, a very interesting career.
That is, and you had the opportunity to meet so many presidents, so many different people, and you got to work with the Secret Service. That's honestly really amazing.
Yeah, I worked with the Secret Service. I worked with the Drug Enforcement Administration, and I traveled all over the country doing stuff. And yeah, I had, like I said, a very interesting career.
Wow, that's awesome. And then, so a question I wanted to ask you as well, and this is because one of my old coworkers and a friend of mine, he was also a military police officer for the Army, and I asked him for a little help, like any questions in mind that he would ask. And one thing that he asked that piqued my interest was, how did you approach the oath you took when you first enlisted into military officer? Because he was explaining that like some people will carry it on throughout the rest of their lives, or like handle it different ways, person to person.
That oath I have taken numerous times. So we'll just start with when I first enlisted. I was still in school when I enlisted. I went into the delayed enlistment program. Okay. And so you go through everything, and you take the oath. And I took it very serious. And then when I went on active duty, you have to take the oath again.
Yeah.
And then when I came on the highway patrol, you take the oath again because you are upholding the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah. And protecting the people.
And protecting the people. And then when I was elected to office, I took the oath again. And when I was reelected to office, I took the oath again.
Wow.
So yeah, my whole life has been dedicated to public service. When you think about it, I went in the military right after high school. And then I went from the military to the highway patrol. Went from the highway patrol to being an elected official. So my whole life has been dedicated to public service.
Yeah.
And so I take my oath of office extremely serious. And there are people that have questioned that over the years, especially during the pandemic. Which I take that personally, because just because you don't agree with my decisions doesn't mean that I'm not upholding the Constitution of the United States as set forth by the Supreme Court and the 3 branches of government.
Right.
So I truly believe that I have done true faith and allegiance to the best of my ability my entire life.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know it's because like you were saying that people will question you, and so they put in a situation a lot of times where it's more of a subjective opinion without so much actual insight into everything. But that's very interesting with it, with having to take the oath over and over again. And especially, I know the pandemic as well has been a very difficult thing, just over in general, with being able to uphold the standards, as well as just all the conflicts that keep coming up. So that's really cool to see. And then, yeah, it's like something with me personally, especially just because how people are nowadays, like everything is more quick to being like attack journalism, things like that. Like as we were talking about before, there's more mudslinging. There's people are more interested in like dogging on each other, finding the negatives instead of like the things that you're doing, for example, where it's more so in the actual intentions of benefiting the public interest the most. And it's not dealing so much with your own personal vices and conflicts and how that could interfere with the duties and the oath you took. Instead, you stayed true to yourself and your values and traditions and upheld at the best of your ability what you found to be true.
Very true. And it's extremely important to remember that it's easy to make a decision when that decision has no consequences.
Yeah.
You know, people can sit back and they can say, well, I would do it this way, or I would do it that way. Every decision that I've made for all these different careers that I've had, you have to look at it. Okay, the decision that I'm making is going to impact another person or several people's lives.
Mhm.
It's a very important decision. And what's right for one person isn't always right for another person.
Right.
And so you have to take the community as a whole and say, what is the appropriate action to take for the community as a whole? Not for one person, not for myself, not for you,
Mhm.
but for the community and well-being as the whole community. So, it's easy to sit back and criticize.
Yeah.
But if you really want to make those decisions, please. Now, this is my last term. I'm a big believer in term limits.
Yeah.
So this is my second term. When this is over, I will be leaving this seat. So if people really, truly believe that their ideas are better, please run for office and make those decisions.
Yeah, especially too if you feel like you have the capacity to make a genuine change, especially for the better. Like for myself, for example, I feel like I have a capacity to extend to help benefit people and to through having the productive conversation. And it at times almost feels irresponsible to not capitalize on that when you feel like you have the capacity to do so.
Sure.
But yeah, that's
This is communication. And this
Exactly.
is, who knows how many people are going to watch. If one person watches and it changes their life, then it was worth everything that you did. So it's extremely important to have communication and be able to put the information out there for people to see it and to make life decisions.
Exactly. And then it'll be because the people themselves will also have their own independent thinking. It'll be their choice to either disseminate and take in the information as it is or do their own investigation to figure out what the actual legitimacy of it.
Because this is America and that's how we do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We don't have to sit back and wait for the government to tell us what to think.
Yeah.
We can think for ourselves.
That's why I've always been such a big history buff, especially when it comes to America, because like the stuff that I read, the biggest emphasis has always been the question of whether or not the government has the authority to enact or do certain things. And it was discussing, statistically speaking, America versus any other nation like Britain, France, anything of that like. There's never been such a public focus and public interest on personal liberties and freedoms like any other. That's something that is primarily acute to America alone.
Oh, absolutely. And it's extremely important that we can make those types of things, those types of decisions, and the government only has the authority that the people give it.
Mhm.
And sometimes we forget that, and this cracks people up. But I'll show you. This is the stuff that I carry everywhere. So, yeah, old pictures from when I worked on patrol and that kind of stuff. But I carry this all the time.
Oh, a little Constitution handbook?
Yep.
I actually carry this too.
I carry a copy of the Constitution of the United States with me all the time. So,
Nice.
because it's important. That is what all the laws of this country are based on, is this Constitution right here.
Yeah, that's
And
why I actually.
this is what our government officials and our elected officials are supposed to remember.
Yeah, that's why I bought two handbooks. I have one in my car and then one at home, and then I have specific sections highlighted for references. So that way, it kind of keeps that in mind for me.